How do you make sure that Alexa reports to the customer the right status of the lights, cameras, or locks? And how does Alexa know when to trigger a hunch? I'm Josephine, a solutions architect with the Alexa Smart Home team, and today we'll talk about enabling proactive experiences with the Smart Home API and answer those two questions. With your Smart Home skill, you can enable proactive and predictive experiences to help your customers save energy, save time, and save money, or even feel more secure in the smart home. Maybe you yourself are already using features such as hunches at home. Hunches are one of those proactive experiences built with state information. So how could you enable those delightful experiences for your customers? You start by proactively reporting the state of the endpoints that you manage, as accurate device states are the foundation of all ambient, proactive technology that Alexa brings to customers. So let's get to it. First, let's review why we need you to send us state updates. Then, we'll discuss the steps that you need to take today to enable proactive reporting. And finally, we will review the resources available to you. So let's start with the why. There are two main benefits to sending state information. First, it ensures that we are accurately reflecting to customers the current state of their devices in their Alexa app and when they ask Alexa. False information can hurt the trust of customers in both your products and Alexa. Would you want to see in your app that the front door is locked when in fact it's not? Probably not. The second benefit is the proactive features. Smart features free up time for customers to spend on activities that are important to them. Customers should be spending less time worrying about the door being locked or the robot vacuum getting started when they're gone. We should let Alexa worry about all that. As we're building our smart home, we're adding more hunches, more smart features. Visualize that accurate endpoint states are the foundation of that house, and the smart features are built on top of it. Those type of smart features are driving growth and innovation. To make your product even smarter with Alexa and provide more value to your customers and back to you, we encourage you to work with us and enable your devices to report state information. Also, important note, for developers participating in the Works with Alexa program, proactively reporting endpoint states is mandatory to maintain your Works with Alexa certification. So, how do you take advantage of those features today? We're going to need you to send state and change reports. We'll enable state reporting in 3 steps. First, you will enable Alexa events in your developer console. Then, you will then implement state and change reports for each of the controllers supported in your skill. And finally, you will test and monitor the accuracy of your reports. There are several steps that you need to take in order to send events to Alexa. First, you will enable events in the developer console. So let's pause and take a look. So where do you go to enable events? Here, you are on the permission tabs of the Alexa developer console. In our example, the option to send Alexa event is already enabled. When you enable, note the Alexa client ID and your client secret. They are both listed on the same tab. You will need those values to request access tokens for each of your customers. Great. For those following at home, I just show you where to enable events in the developer console. Now, let's dive deep into what needs to happen next and get our authentication tokens for our customers. Note that your skill will have to go through certification again. It's a big change. But do not submit right away. Let's wait to complete all the steps and be ready first. All right, now let's proceed with authentication. If you're not done already, you need to implement the Alexa.authorization interface, which is the interface that lets you obtain authentication tokens for each customer and allows your skill to send asynchronous messages to the Alexa gateway. For example, change reports that we're going to talk about in a minute. Once implemented, Alexa will send you an accept grant directive every time a customer completes the account linking process. So what happens for all your current customers that have already enabled the skill? There is a backfilling process. Alexa will send you an accept grant directive for each and every customer that have previously enabled your skill. You must handle the accept grant messages and go through the authentication process. You can request support at any point using our contact us form on developer.amazon.com. Great, we just enabled events We got our authentication tokens for our customers. Now, we're ready to implement both state report and change report. So let's review what they do. You must report state for all Alexa controllers that you have implemented, including endpoint health, and for each of the endpoints that you manage as well. There are two use cases for sending Alexa a state or a change report. First, you need to report the state of a device as soon as you detect a change in its state. That's what we call a change report. So, for example, if I turn off my coffee maker, which is powered by a smart plug, the skilled developer will have to immediately send a change report to Alexa to notify the new state. The plug is off. So let's take another offline example. So I'm walking down the hallway and manually turning off the light, because it still happens. That is also a change in the light state. I didn't use Alexa to turn off the lights, but Alexa still needs to be informed about the state to display the correct information in the app. So the skilled developer will have to send a change report to Alexa as well. So you detect a change in the state, you send a change report to Alexa. The second use case for sending state information is when Alexa asks you to share the state of a device. Alexa sends you a report state directive, and you answer with a state report that contains state information about the device. So, for example, if I ask, Alexa, what's the temperature in the hallway? Alexa will send a report state to the skilled developer, which will report the state in a state report, and Alexa will tell me that it's actually 24 degrees, because Celsius rocks. So, to recap, if the state of an endpoint is changing for any reason, you send a change report to Alexa. If Alexa sends you a report state, you respond with a state report. Let's stop there for best practices. If you receive a directive from Alexa to change the state of an endpoint, you need to reflect the new state of the device in your response to Alexa. So for example, if I say, Alexa, turn on the living room light, Alexa sends to the skill developer an Alexa.powercontroller.turnOn directive, and they respond with the new state of the device, which is power controller is on. The skill developer must also send a change report in that instance to indicate that the device has a new state. So the second best practice is about the JSON format. A change report has two sections in which you can report state: a context and the payload. In the context, you report unchanged states, just contextual information. And in the payload, you report the change, could be multiple, in state of the endpoint. If the change report JSON does not include the state in the payload, Alexa will not know the state of the endpoint. And a change report with an empty payload is most likely an error. For the third recommendation, do not duplicate controller's information in a change report. Only report the new state of the controller in the payload of the change report. If I'm turning on, turning off the light, do not put turn off in context and turn on or turn off in the payload. Alexa will not know what to do. So do not write in the context the same information. To wrap up the implementation of state and change reporting, you need to indicate in your discovery response that each of the controllers that you have implemented are supporting both state and change report. This is a very important part. We've noticed over time that not updating the discovery response with the right properties is the main reason for failures. So how do you update your discovery response? You do that by setting the properties proactively reported as true and retrievable as true for each of your controllers. Proactively reported means that you will send a change report every time the device's state change. And retrievable means that you will share the state of the device when Alexa prompts you to do so. So another important note, if you send Alexa state or change reports, or both, and properties in your discovery response are set to false, Alexa will not acknowledge your messages. In this last section, let's review the tools available to you to monitor and improve the quality of the data that you're sharing. Speed matters. Speed matters when sending reports. You need to quickly report states when a customer is asking for the state of a device. Don't let them wait. And you need to let Alexa know as soon as the state of the device changes, so that Alexa is aware of the state of each connected device. To send data fast, ensure that your fleets can communicate state updates back to your cloud in real time, either from the endpoint or via polling mechanisms from your cloud. This is your architecture, you decide. Just send messages fast. To better explain the level of data quality that we're looking for, we have set an accuracy bar of 97% for our Works with Alexa certified partners. We measure accuracy by comparing the state of an endpoint that you reported in a change report with the value being reported in the state report following a customer query. If reports are always matching, then the accuracy is 100%. But if they're matching about a third of the time, then your accuracy is going to be 33%. So if you're missing a couple of change reports, your accuracy is going to be lower because we're going to be missing some information. So to monitor your performance, you can review the analytics provided in the Developer Console. Let's have a look. So how can you monitor your performance? There are multiple tools available to help you monitor your skills performance when it comes to state and change reporting. First, let's have a look at the tools to monitor the accuracy and latency of your change reports. You can access this page by going to your Alexa Developer Console, then navigating to the Analytics tab of your live skill. Select the Change Report tab on the left side. You will see two tabs, Accuracy and Latency. Accuracy tells you how often the state report have matched with the last received change report. The percentage score can be read on the left. Use the Works with Alexa bar as a reference. Now on to latency. Latency measures the time between a change report received by Alexa from the time a directive is sent to the device. The clock will start ticking when Alexa sends a directive to your cloud and will stop as soon as Alexa receives the change report. We just took a look at the accuracy and latency metrics. Now, what should you do if you need to dive deeper and review potential issues? We have two more tools to help you, the Smart Home State Reporter and the Smart Home Debugger. Let's start with the Smart Home State Reporter. This is your Skill Developer Console landing page, the page where you can see all your skills. What you will do is scroll to the bottom and under Resources, select Smart Home State Reporter. We are now in the Smart Home State Reporter. On this page, you will see that all the devices that are connected to your account in the Developer Console. It is a debugging tool that lets you see what happens with state and change reports. You won't be able to see any devices that are not connected to your account, so you won't see any customer device. So here's an example. My table lamp is equipped with a smart light bulb, which is connected to Alexa. It's called table lamp due to a lack of inspiration. The table lists all of the controllers that are supported by the skill for this endpoint, and the states associated with each. Now, on my desk, my table lamp is actually turned off. In the tool, I can see what has been reported to Alexa. On row 1, we see that brightness controller, which controls the brightness of the bulb, is at 0. And on row 3, we see power controller is off, and it controls the power of the lamp. So this is all consistent. My lamp is off on my table, and it's showing as off in the web app. What we're going to do now is trigger a change. Let's ask Alexa to set the table lamp's brightness to 20. Let's refresh the page and click on the Query button. And we can see some changes. Now, what changed? My table lamp is turned on. We can see that on row 1, where brightness controller is now at 20, which is what I asked. And on row 3, we see that power controller is on. So you might have noticed this column on the far right, which is called Deep Query. This column tells you if the state retrieved is based on a change report or a state report. So if Deep Query is true, it means that the state was retrieved via a state report. So Alexa sent you a report state, and you responded with a state report. Now, if Deep Query is false, it means that the state was retrieved from the last change report you sent. This could mean that you did not let Alexa retrieve the state of your endpoint. So take an action. Go verify your discovery response and ensure that for each controller, you report retrievable true and proactively reported true. We just took a look at the State Reporter tool. Now, let's dive deep into the Smart Home Debugger. The purpose of the debugger is to allow you to view, in real time, the reports that you are sending to Alexa. For instance, change reports, but also other events such as add or update report or delete report. But let's just focus on change reports. So how do you get started? You go to the developer portal, you find your skill, and you select the Test tab. In this event, we just ask Alexa to turn on the lights, and we can see the change report as sent to Alexa in the payload, along with a note telling us about the success or error. If you don't see any change report generated, you're not sending change report. So take a look at all the resources provided in this video. If your change report is not correctly set up or does not send the right events, you will see an error message. Take a look at the documentation so that you can properly address it. In the debugger, we're seeing change reports, but let's take that content out and take a look. So this is a change report. We see three important components that we talked about earlier. Endpoints. That includes endpoint ID, a unique identifier, and a token, which allow Alexa to securely link the device to a customer. Then we see the payload, which includes the new states that you need to report. Everything that is new, that has just happened, but must be in the payload. And finally, the context. So it provides the states that are in change. So contextual information goes in the context. So I pulled this one on purpose. So do you see what's wrong with this one? You guessed it right. So the same property is duplicated. So I put it in a blue box. In the payload, I see that there's a new state to be reported. The device is turned off. So we can see that in the power controller. It's highlighted in pink. We see power controller off. Now we can see that the device is online through endpoint health, which is highlighted in yellow. What doesn't make sense, though, is to see endpoint health reported as well in the context. So did it change or not? So if it's in the payload, it means that a new event, that the device is back online. But if it's in the context, it means that the device was already reported online before and nothing has changed. So seeing it both in payload and context doesn't make any sense. Alexa cannot make a decision, and she will be ignoring the change report. Let's pause for debugging best practices. As a starting point for a live skill, leverage live skill monitoring with latency and accuracy metrics to measure the skill performance. With a test device linked to your developer account, see if the correct state is being updated through the Smart Home State Reporter. Use the deep query column as an indicator. A state that is not retrievable will be marked as false, so you will need to address it by updating your discovery response. If you see that your state cannot be retrieved at all times, you should take a closer look at your state report. It could be that you're not reporting the endpoint ID correctly, for example. Similarly, if a state cannot be retrieved at all, but your discovery response is properly set up, it might be an authentication issue, so try enabling the skill again. To go one step further, test your change reports with the Smart Home Debugger. The debugger will focus on schema validation. Most of the common errors, such as duplicating controllers in the payload or having them both in context and payload of the change report, or missing endpoints will be caught. However, there are still some errors that may not be caught, such as malforming an endpoint ID. Finally, most of the issues you see with state information can be diagnosed and solved with the tools available to you in the console. We encourage you to take a look. So let's recap. State data is the foundation of a smarter home. Predictive and proactive features that improve engagement and provide value back to you are based on accurate device state. To implement state events, you need to enable Alexa events and backfill authentication tokens for your customers if needed. Start sending change reports each and every time you detect a change in an endpoint state. Send report states when Alexa sends you a report state directive. And speed matters. Send reports fast. Here are some good resources for you. Enable Alexa events, implement state and change reporting, then you test your skill and you view your device states, and finally you go to Developer Console and take a look at the change reports. Thank you, and come enable proactive experiences with us.